Welcome back to another episode of Twisted Metal Companion. I'm Peter. Sitting across from me, some may call him a haggard loner, but I call him my co-host. Tyler, how you doing, sir?
Oh, doing great. Greased up, ready to go.
You ready for a Diddy party? Sounds like. I thought of that during my note taking, but I did not write that down and figured it may come up organically. So thank you for the assist. Yeah, we are here as we get closer to the release of season two. We are reviewing today episode 105 titled Crossroads. So, um, usually, right about now, we would give you guys any updates, but currently there are no updates with season two. I've not gotten a trailer yet or any new images since I think the last thing we got of anything was that clip from IGN. So hopefully we get something soon as we get down to like the last few weeks here in July. Um, yeah, I think we're just gonna kind of get right into it. And before we get into the details, Tyler, Crossroads, is the title of this episode. What are some of the moments in this episode that make you think of the term crossroads?
Uh, I mean the we get some, splitting of the group,
Mhm.
going their separate ways. Some moments of choosing, individually, where do I want to go? How do I want to proceed? Uh, and then of course the we'll probably get to it later, but the sex position featured in this episode. You could call it Crossroad.
Okay. It may be called that actually, and we don't know. And then basically Quiet, she also faces a crossroad of her own there kind of towards the end. Does she leave Topeka or does she go back? And she's kind of forced in one direction. So what I did not have was Peacock's description of this episode 105 Twisted Metal.
I will
I
say,
will
until I saw the Zoom link with the title, I had written down Crazy Road.
I do kind of remember something like last year when the episodes were released, the episode titles were released. I feel like we did do an episode kind of going through them all and
Yeah,
deciding or trying to figure out what it's called. And I think I forget what you said, but I think Three Ring Circus was fu funny. Like you said, like the three something Crocs or
I don't remember, but yeah, I every one of these makes me feel stupider and stupider.
it's funny because like I feel like I'm on the opposite end where I'm just all like, oh, these like I'm just looking at a few of these. I'm just like, yeah, that's exactly what this is. And so I don't want to give any of those away, but I'm not being stumped on any of them. So I think it's really funny how you pick up on certain letters and you're reading something. So you thought crazy. I can see that crazy swords.
Yeah, Crazy Swords definitely came up in my mind. I was just like, what is this one supposed to be?
Uh, I think I should start referring to the Peacock website because these uh summaries or whatever, they're a lot shorter, which is nice because we get into pretty good details anyway. So what Peacock has for episode five, season one, Quiet closes in on her search for revenge. John gets incapacitated, and Sweet Tooth wreaks havoc. I mean, that sums it up if I
Yeah.
heard it. That's it. So so we did the name game. What about your thoughts for this episode?
Yeah, this one, watching it again, um, it does a lot of like moving things forward. I think it's kind of like just getting people into the places they need to be. It's I wouldn't say like it's not one of my favorite episodes, but it does a lot of good work, getting us to the end. But
Right.
it does have a lot of moments, that I enjoy. It's just a lot smaller. It's not the overall, connecting story. It
Right.
doesn't hit as much.
It's just what I will say is it's very well paced. So much
Mm.
happens. When I was reading the first two sentences, Quiet closes in on her search for revenge, and John gets incapacitated. I forget about like, when Sweet Tooth met Stewie, their little kind of meet cute rom-com meet here. So I kind of forget that a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in here. I see what you mean in not one of your favorites. It does kind of yeah, kind of what you said. It puts everybody in the places they need to be. Um, Prior to rewatching this episode, I do remember um a little spoilery from one of the later episodes. I do remember that we get a little bit more backstory on in for Loud and Quiet,
Hmm.
before the fall. And so I was thinking, I was like, I wonder, and we'll have to get up to that episode. Obviously, I think we got that might be episode 7 where we get that flashback.
So I
Um,
think yeah, that's coming up. Yeah,
Okay.
coming up
See, so we
next.
got 2 more episodes till we get there, but I do remember that coming up. But then we get this, sequence with like Loud and Quiet, and Loud is very much a figment of our imagination, and we'll get to that. And I'm thinking like, I wonder if this scene could have played differently if this episode maybe I don't know. I don't know if the episode comes like 1 episode later and then we just rearrange that flashback and we get that sometime before this. Like would we feel a little bit more connected to like the brother and sister relationship? I don't know. It's really hard to say because like I think getting that brother and sister thing also is kind of like contrasting with like the Roberts, Carl and
Hmm.
Jamie that we're also going to meet in this episode. So I kind of wondered that has that ever crossed your mind at all? Kind of how we've been
I'm
getting like these bits and pieces of Loud and Quiet.
Yeah, I mean, going into this episode, watching it again, I was thinking like, oh, this is the one that has the flashback. I was expecting it,
Oh,
to go there at some point, and then I remembered, oh, this isn't the location where that happens. But I think because I think if they reordered it, it wouldn't work as well because the loud that we're seeing, isn't necessarily like it's not really like a
mm,
manifestation of loud. It's just quiet, kind of like thinking through all of her thoughts, like filtered through loud. And they kind of address that
right.
at some point, saying like you're just my inner thoughts. You're just you're just what I'm thinking.
That's
And
fair.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You're right. It would be two
I,
completely different Louds.
yeah. I think if we would have got like the flashback of seeing what he was really like, before everything and stuff, then when we saw this, it would be like, oh, why is he being such a dick?
Right. I was just thinking back to like the previous episode where she talked about how he was so annoying and he had that annoying laugh. And I'm like, this is him being annoying. Like so that's what I was thinking. And I didn't even consider like, oh, right, because that the future episode with that far flashback, they are both completely different people. Than we see currently as well. So yeah, good point. All right. Well, this episode was written by Francesca and Jacqueline Gales. Apologies for any of the mispronunciations. And directed by friend of the show, Jude Wang, who we've interviewed. And I did say the previous episode, knowing that she was director of the following episode, I go expect a lot of shit to be blown up because she loves that stuff. And she did not disappoint. There's a lot of really great shots in this episode. Um, I did wonder, and I did go back and listen to our interview. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time, but uh, I, I did wonder why was there a break in directors between 'cause she did episode 3 and then 5, and I think it was like a Maggie something that maybe yeah, Sean Diston wrote episode 4, and it was like a Maggie. I'm forgetting Maggie Carey maybe that directed the previous episode. Usually they do like kind of two at a time. Like
Mm.
Kitao Sakurai, he did the first 2 episodes, and then he ends with the last 2 episodes. So I kind of wondered, but her 2 episodes did have Stone in it. Maybe that's why, and it kind of came down to like scheduling, and so she did her episodes back to back, but in terms of release it was split. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean
So
that.
maybe the directing was still back to back.
So yeah, that would probably be my best guess is just however who was available, what was available for resources and stuff, just worked out
Yeah.
you know these ones
I
together.
and I have this really weird, neat connection to Jude's sister. I believe her name is Diana. She follows me on my Cobra Kai account. Did not know who she was. I kind of like seeing like little bits of her posts here and there. I was just like, oh, she's in the industry. Kind of find out that she made a post of her sister. I'm like, oh shit, that's Jude. That's her. We interviewed her at Twisted Metal, and so I thought that was crazy. But also, her sister Diana also worked as I think like a dialogue coach or something for the kids in the 2010 remake of The Karate Kid
Okay.
with Jackie
Yeah.
Chan.
Man.
Yeah, yeah. So she's worked with
Tons of crossing
yeah,
connections.
so weird. So yeah, she's got like all these great pictures of like her and Jackie and the younger Chinese kids, like on set behind the scenes, and yeah, dialogue coach or something. But I was just like, what a small world. So at some point, maybe she saw the interview. He decided just to kind of give me a follow wherever, you know, whatever I was doing. So that was kind of really, really cool and how timely because now we just got Jude's second episode here, episode 5, and Jackie Chan just came out in Karate Kid Legends. So I,
Yeah.
I wonder if her sister worked on that for anything. So um, anyway, I think we could jump into it. We did the
All right.
name game. Oh yes, at the before we get into it. As always, Real Radic has been providing us with the Easter eggs for these episodes. So I'll go ahead and have that played for you guys now.
Time for some fun.
What is good, everybody? It's Real Radic once again bringing you all the major Easter egg breakdowns for Twisted Metal Season 1. We are on Episode 5 now, Crossroads, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. We have 3 major Easter eggs to break down for this episode, starting with our first look at Carl and Jamie Roberts. Carl first appeared in Twisted Metal 1 and was the driver of Outlaw, not to be confused with Agent Stone, who is also the driver of Outlaw, but he was the driver of Outlaw in Twisted Metal Black, not Twisted Metal the original. Fun fact about Carl here, he is actually the canon winner of the first Twisted Metal tournament. Jamie, however, is the second driver of Outlaw and appears in the sequel, Twisted Metal 2, joining the competition to free her brother who is stuck in outer space. Yeah, long story, I know. So these next 2 Easter eggs focus on Twisted Metal 2012, which is the PlayStation 3 game, the final game in the Twisted Metal franchise. So this first one I'm going to mention might seem like a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going to roll with it anyway. When Sweet Tooth ends up freeing a bunch of prisoners, they all become loyal to him and form sort of a cult around him. Why does this remind me of Twisted Metal on PlayStation 3? Well, in that game, all the main characters, so that would be Sweet Tooth, Mr. Grimm, Dollface, and even Preacher, they all have their own gangs worshipping them and fighting for them during combat. So here in this episode, we see the formation of Sweet Tooth's clown gang, and no future spoilers, but there's definitely going to be more gangs in the future. The final Easter egg I want to bring up for this episode is a sign that says Thrills and Spills Park, the amusement park you see at the end of the episode, and yes, that is actually a level in Twisted Metal for PlayStation 3. And that does it for this Easter egg breakdown for episode 5. Shout out to Peter and Tyler for having me on. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will catch you guys next time. Later.
All right, and thanks again, Real Radic, for those Easter eggs. Now, there, one of the actually it was I think it was the last Easter egg, the one basically where he says this might be a stretch. That reminded me of the one from the previous episode where he said it was a stretch, and I didn't even comment it on after his video, but because we talked about it. But in the previous episode, he thinks it was a stretch, but there is a kind of like a movie theater, um, uh, what is it called? Level or not stage like
Oh
like a
yeah.
movie theater stage or so or something. And I think Small Brawl is the one that he referenced. It
Mhm.
was again the previous episode, but I don't think that's a stretch. Again, the people that are making this are fans of the games, and there might be some like minor coincidences, but something like that I wouldn't call it a stretch. That was a problem because they have to build that set, right? Like that's
Mhm.
unless they actually went to unless like it's possible they could have found like the exterior of an abandoned movie theater and also used the inside. That's possible, but I also know that every time you have to leave the studio, like stages, that's a lot more money. So if you're able to
Oh
build
yeah.
it, they build it. Yeah. So it could be either way, and it'd be kind of it'd be kind of a fun discussion if we can talk to like the uh I'm blanking on the name of the production designer that that kind of designs the sets and stuff. So
Yeah.
that'd be a fun one to speak with. Um, but yeah, I don't think that's a stretch. And so with this one, I don't think it was a stretch where he mentions like the sweet tooth of releasing the prisoners. I think that's probably a homage to that. Jamie and Carl will definitely talk about. He doesn't refer to them as twins, just sibling
Mhm.
duo. Did I make that up? Are they supposed to be twins, or are they just straight up brother and sister?
I think just brother and sister. Yeah, I don't. Nothing. I don't think anything was communicated that they were supposed to be twins or
Okay,
anything.
so I completely
Yeah.
made that up. For whatever reason, I thought they were twins. And please, like if I am correct on that, and send us the info, we would love to. You know, we kind of want to be at the not necessarily the authority on all things Twisted Metal, but we want to be accurate for sure,
Mhm.
and not kind of put out wrong information. But that kind of debunks something that I was thinking about earlier, and we'll get to it because I already already made a post on Instagram before we started recording that like, hey, this is a small detail, but I'm going to talk about it. So like for those that already saw that, I am going to have to speak on it. So damn it, but again,
They very
now
well could be. Let's get into the
yeah,
genealogy in
I'm
season
gonna
two.
ask. Yeah, even if whatever we find out about the games is out there that says, they are just if there's no verbiage on them being twins, let's see if I can ask anybody from the show and it's like, did you think you guys were twins or did anybody think they were twins? Was that a thought at some point? Because that's kind of driving me nuts. All right, let's just get into this episode proper and we'll get to some of those details. Okay, so we open up with Quiet and John in the middle of the road in broad daylight having a little dispute. Sounds
Mhm.
like what happened was, and feel free to make amendments here. Sounds like what happened was at some point they both needed to pee, got robbed by a vulture, and in pursuit of recovering some personal effects, maybe. John drifts hard enough that Quiet smacked her face on the windshield. And then they argue over the validity of hang on, whether or not that was a good enough warning.
Yeah, he's like, hang on, I'm drifting. Hang on, there's a speed bump. It becomes useless, she says. Yeah. So
Right.
John apparently just says hang on to everything. And so she just ignores it now. But I think if you're in a chase, trying to get something back, you should be hanging on.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's setting up for a joke that I do remember happening at some point, unless it already did that earlier. No, wasn't there like an earlier episode where he purposely like reverses and then I think she smacks. I think it was episode two
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah. So there's like a
where
brake check or something. Yeah. That they kind of
yeah.
like do to each other.
And then when they try to like flee from Sweet Tooth in the casino, he says the thing again, and then she puts on the seatbelt, right? So like I feel she should have learned by now to like put a seatbelt on when you're riding shotgun with John. Just an observation. I don't know. You guys tell me. But
We
also
also
I'm
know
not,
John has a habit of just drifting whenever possible. Maybe it's just
there's
like
that.
you didn't need to do that now. Just trying to look
Right.
cool.
And if she's already caught on that Jello means something different to him, maybe hang on also means something different. So okay, maybe I'm kind of split down the middle there, so I'm not gonna point one finger towards the other. Um, now nearly she mentions that he nearly got them killed over this guy's CD collection.
Mhm.
So so they're the one that got robbed. We never find out exactly what was taken. I originally
Well,
thought these were his CDs,
well,
but
that's
John
what.
makes it clear.
Well, so he pulls out the binder, and then he's
Right,
like that's what he was going for. But then he starts going through the guy's like singles, like his
right.
own stuff. So I took it as he was robbed of the CD binder, but then
Okay.
now that the guy's dead, he's going through that guy's other CDs to see what else
Huh.
he can take. That's what I took it as.
Okay. Well, that actually that makes more sense for sure because because like yeah, I mean. because if it's worth its weight in gold, that's what John says. Like I love music, and so I can see that getting killed over it. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be pretty sentimental or whatever. I mean, he's saying they're valuable, so I get it. But I was just like, why? Because what did they take? and and it's like over just CDs that and it could have been like all shit, right? Like clearly he has like some sort of taste because he tosses like a Dave Matthews CD so
Yeah.
away, but keeps like Hanson. Like I'm not gonna judge on any of those song like album choices or whatever. I did have that third DMX album
Uh,
that kind of flashes there.
to be fair, he was not familiar with Hanson, so he didn't know what he was
That's
getting
true.
into yet. He was a
He
mystery
loved
box
it.
at that point.
I think he
Yeah.
loves it. We get yeah, Nino dropped later, a couple of them actually. So yes, the CD includes Hanson, and during my note taking, I wrote track 02 because digital, and it's not going to have the name of the track yet, right? Back in the day, before we had like these sophisticated uh CD players with the detachable faces that actually show the info, it would actually just say track one, track two, stuff like that. So I did look it up because I didn't know for sure, but track two is Bop on that
Hmm.
Hanson album. At this point, they're 3 miles away from Topeka. Quiet was willing to let him take off from there, but he insists in joining her to see this fabled Topeka she's talked so much about, and adds that her brother would have wanted it that way. Um, and he's talking about just her getting there safely because that's kind of like she was describing that as their Shangri-La,
Hmm.
kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he's working that in there. It's nice of him. And there's the payoff for her pocketing the weeds from the previous episode. I think the guilt is there if you're looking for it, for her to do this. I mean, I think the idea of her not looking at him as he is, kind of feeling the effects of the weeds, I think is kind of telling. Um, I do like that. Apparently, the axe throwing game has continued into the apocalypse. Like,
Yes.
started out at the bars and
Yeah.
they're doing
Got to
okay
kill
there.
time. Throw some
Yeah.
axes.
Quiet hands John a bottle of Brimble's Black Ice Vodka. I did not look it up, but I'm assuming that's something they made. Brimble, maybe that's somebody that somebody knows, and that's the last name. But I figured this is kind of like a Smirnoff Ice knockoff,
Yeah.
right? Something like that.
Yeah. Like wine
Um,
cooler or something.
yeah. It made me think of Zima. I'm like, no, Zima's clear, but and if it's Zima. I don't know if people are still drinking Zima nowadays. If it is a Zima bottle, then that's got to be like pretty old.
Yeah. I mean, I think SEMA does still exist. I feel like I was surprised to see it not too long ago. But yeah,
Yeah,
that thing just reminded me of being like 16 with my cousins and drinking Smirnoff Ice.
yeah. I think when I started. I don't want to. It sounds weird to say like I started drinking at 14, but I had my first drink at 14 and got drunk. But it was off of like Mad Dog 2020,
Oh yeah,
stuff I had no business drinking for my very first time, and so
the kind
I
of thing that
still
should put
remember.
you off from drinking forever.
Yeah, maybe it helped because like I'm barely a social drinker. You've been out with me, and I babysit my first beer for like hours. Um, okay, so let's see here. Did you notice what it has on the label as a kind of like a slogan for this
Oh no, I missed that.
da dangerous curves ahead? So it's on the six pack box and then on the top of the label on the bottle as I was drinking it. So I thought that's interesting. Dangerous curves ahead, and you actually see that on you see the label with like curves ahead as John's like feeling the effects too. So it kind of reminds me of that one little um thing that they did in episode 2 when John was trying to escape Sweet Tooth and he happens to be positioned in front of like a slot machine and the sign says like a winner winner and they're all pointing to him. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like one of those like little sight gags. I really like those. Um she tells an unconscious John that she can't have him come with her. I originally put a question mark. I was going to ask you any idea why, but we pretty much get that answer a little bit later. did you kind of what it ended up being? Did you figure as much, or did you have any other ideas?
Oh, I mean, yeah, just from like their interaction, right before I interpreted it as like if she didn't actually care about him, she would be like, well, fine, come along, you can help and, possibly die or something. But like, she clearly, doesn't want to just throw him to the wolves. And so here's an easy way to not have to have a conversation about it, have to talk about it, just, part ways without any friction.
Yeah, and because we talked about it in the previous episode, we kind of gave our thoughts on the IGN clip of the upcoming season two. You kind of see a little her kind of doing that with Mayhem as
Mm,
well. It's like this is too dangerous for you. I don't want you to come and
yeah.
possibly die. So yeah, I can't
Making
wait to
that
see
decision
that.
herself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We cut to Agent Stone in Topeka, probably his Capitol building. I don't know. Learning his word of the day from a calendar, which also displays Monday, September 9th. Um, he's even trying to probably use it in a sentence, loquacious, full of excessive talk or wordy. Now, assuming Stone stays up to date, the year would be either 2024 or 2030, based off of the Monday, September 9th.
Oh.
So the calendar, I'm sure, is 2024, but I was trying to get an idea of like the year for them,
Hmm.
because that was the thing in like Cobra Kai, it spanned like 6.5 seasons, 7 years, but it was like 2.5 years, of the entire show. Um, we meet brother and sister duo Carl and Jamie Roberts, who are reporting to Stone. So that's funny. Even in my notes, I say brother and sister duo, and we got the Easter eggs from Radek after I took my notes. So I don't even refer to them as twins here. I don't even know where this twins idea came from. So
Well,
that
and
that really
had had we seen their characters before, or is this the
I
first introduction?
yeah, I think this is their introduction.
Okay, yeah, because the when we get to the scene, where Stone is, being explained what a sibling is again.
Right. Sister,
Yeah, like
yeah.
up till that point, I was like, oh, they hadn't even like mentioned that they were siblings, or anything like that. And so it seemed like very
He
forward, information to give.
well because this is a callback to the first episode, I think, right, with Loud and Quiet,
Yeah,
and so he's having to be explained again, but it's because Stone to Jamie refers to him as like her lover, or yeah, him as her lover. She's like, she's about to say something, that he's like, she's my sister.
yeah. Well, he's like, I want you to search for them like you would search for, body
Lice on
lice
your lover. Yeah,
on your
yeah.
lover or whatever.
Right,
And I
right.
just took that as like, oh, he's just, like, hey, that's how much you need to look, not necessarily like, hey, you're a lover. He's not
Oh
pointing
no.
and like looking
Yeah, yeah.
over at
I
them.
I knew
Just
exactly
like,
whose point. Yeah, see, so
yeah,
that's again, I just love the different perspective there. Um, yeah, it's funny that you thought it that way. You're like, oh yeah, you're just like a lover. I get that. I'm like, no, he's looking at her, you know. Um, but every time like I think of like fine combing and searching for people, I always think back to that scene in like Spaceballs. We ain't found shit
yeah.
in the desert. So I was thinking
Well,
about that.
and they come in to give him like an update on someone else. I can't remember what who they say that they were like.
Map maker.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Map maker. Yeah, and he's uh not interested. He's only looking for John and Quiet.
Yeah. So because I did ask, like, what's your read on these two? I added Stone had to recap episode three for them to emphasize that these two are not just going to pop up, that basically they need to do better. Um, yeah. So I love that whole recap. It was really fun. Just to kind of like just a little reminder, if you know if it's taking you a year to review episodes like it has for me here to take to the notes, uh, that you kind of forget what happened. Like, Agent Shepard had a pretty cool like death, in my opinion. And yeah, we already talked about, because I had a question, why does he just assume people are lovers? So they're together. So after that, we cut to Sweet Tooth en route to Hoover Dam, which we saw previously, while singing his version of Frere Jacques, but changing all of the words, obviously.
Mhm.
He gets to the gate with a guard who asks for his ORL, and really takes a page of the Joker's book from The Dark Knight and puts
Oh
a
yeah.
grenade in his mouth. Yeah. Um, and really blows through with ease is how I end that one. Anything to add? I thought the that guard, I thought he had like conviction when he spoke,
Oh yeah.
but then really cowered, when challenged, like, or else what? Or else I'll bring you in. He's puckering up.
Yeah, very opening very confidently for what is clearly a madman who's much
Yeah.
larger than you.
Yeah.
But yeah, he shoves the grenade in, and the guy, I would think I personally would try something else other than just screaming and having my head blow up. But that's not a lot of time, I guess, to
Yeah,
make those
it's
decisions.
split second decision. I think my reaction would be to scream too, maybe drop and scream. I don't know. But I will say, never mind being like a much larger man. But if a dude in an ice cream truck, you know, uh, it probably reeks as all get out. And there's a demented looking clown man on the inside with like black eyes. No, thank you. It's like go right in, sir. I see you just came by and renewed your license. Come on in. We've been
Yep.
waiting for you.
Oh, we were expecting you. Go on in.
Yeah, really. We cut back to the mile marker from earlier and see that John's still knocked out. And someone else also sees this. Someone with dire need of a petty 10 tetanus shots and one of those electric sanders that were used in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I
That I
just
put.
I just have written down a person with fuck off gross feet.
It's pretty bad. He seems nice so far. He checks to see if John's alive and then drags him into safety. I'm sure of it. Uh, we cut to a couple of random lawmen who are both
Hmm.
taking a leak on someone while talking about Agent Shepard. The first one heard he killed himself, so that's like the game of telephone. So the news got to him. It's like, oh, Shepard killed himself. And the other heard it the way we saw it happen. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Maybe this guy heard it from that intern or whatever. It's like the direct source. Um, any theories who the guy is? He's zip tied, his hands behind his back, crouched down, and a bullet wound to the head. So probably
Yeah,
they apprehended.
someone who didn't, I don't know, who tried to throw away a wrapper and then it fell out of the trash can and he didn't pick it up fast enough or something.
That's probably it. That's probably it. Um, he didn't even see it drop back down. The guy's like, "Hey, you're littering. You're gonna obey the law." Um, as they complain what they have packed up for lunch, one has like peanuts or just regular nuts. I
Yeah,
but
one's
this
got
other
a ham
guy, he's
sandwich and another has
yeah.
peanuts or something, and neither of them seem happy about what
What
they
is
have.
wrong with has ham sandwiches changed?
I mean, well, I guess maybe the ham isn't what we consider ham at this point. I don't know if
It's like
they have
raw
pigs.
like pig flesh.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It's like really thick raw bacon. Um, that could be it. And I don't know these nuts. I don't know what they are, but season a good nut and it's fine. It's a trail mix. Add some berries to it. But we do see that Quiet snuck her way inside their vehicle. And then we come back from a break and see Quiet manage to have stayed hidden long enough for them to clear security and enter the compounds of the lawmen. We see they take their law seriously, like picking up after your pets. We kind of alluded to it. They must have just killed that guy because like the dog's still alive.
Yeah.
And did you notice the dog? Like, when did you first notice the dog? Like the first time you saw the episode, or
I mean, just yeah, just this time because like I like paused to like take
right?
a note. Yeah, and then when I was unpausing, noticed it.
So I must have watched. Okay, so I watched the episode twice before taking my notes, and I missed it those first two times. It was the third time when I'm actually writing down dialogue, and Loud, who's in the I don't know if he's backseat or sitting next to her at this point, but he's basically saying like, why would anybody do that? It's like separate their pet from their owner or whatever. I'm like, pet? I didn't. Is the dog dead too? And so I went back, and then I noticed like it's a poodle or something, like something like that. So like I never even noticed the dog before, because it's always like I see the body and then I read the sign and that's all I see.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's there's not a lot of room for infractions in this
yeah,
society.
really. Yeah, they don't even care what's gonna happen to the dog as long as like the owner is punished for disobeying. So
Although maybe they were a
priorities.
repeat offender. Maybe this is like the
It could
fourth
be.
or fifth time, and then I'm on
That's
their
it.
side.
Okay, that's fair enough. Uh, what do you think about Loud appearing in the vehicle with Quiet? I know we talked a little bit about it at the top.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a nice little kind of back and forth. As she's kind of like working through uh, what she's thinking, and I don't know if it's this interaction or not, but kind of like on a whim, she kind of changes how she's thinking of him. Like how he's represented. Kind of removes like the bullet wound and everything, kind of like clean him up, which I thought was interesting. Kind of the like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't like
you
thinking about you this way.
right. You're talking about. Oh, okay. You're talking about Loud. His appearance.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Because yeah, I think he
Because I don't.
mentions something about like look at how you think about me. You're just thinking about me dead, or something like that.
All right. Okay. Oh yeah. He's talking about like I want you to think of me like with a ripped and six pack or whatever. Because I don't think this comes up yet, so I'll save it because I did write a note on it. Um. Okay. So we cut back to the DMV where we see Stu is in the waiting room and his number's up next. What did you think about this scene with Stu and the officers? Yeah, Stu with the other officers and Sweet Tooth coming to recruit.
Yeah, I
The
like
whole action sequence.
the interaction between the guard and Stu, where they're pretty much like making fun of him, calling him fat, and he's they're like, oh, you're gonna fall much harder than anyone else, and then he gets into a conversation about well, it doesn't matter the mass, everything falls the same, and the guard brings up terminal velocity, which he seems very passionate about what terminal velocity actually is. And then
Now,
yeah, Sweet Tooth interrupts them, right after that.
so where are you on that discussion scientifically? Because like that discussion for some reason pulled me to like a episode of Growing Pains with Leonardo DiCaprio in like science class. No, maybe it wasn't Leo, but I think Kirk Cameron's character, I'm f forgetting his name, but I think he was maybe teaching a class and was challenged. I might be mixing up shows now. Anyway, but
Kirk
there was
Cameron
like
challenged on science. What?
yeah, I think these are the characters and this is what's going on. But basically, it was a science class and was they're talking about like a feather and something else that is much heavier and without oxygen they weigh the same basically. It's like weightless. So it kind of made me think of that a little bit. And so I think there is a little truth to like, well, it doesn't matter the mass, they're falling at the same rate, but only if like they're connected, right? Like if you're holding the feather, it's gonna go, I don't know.
Oof. This
It,
is going to be very revealing for my actual science knowledge. But I mean, I think given like enough distance, like if they were both falling, to hit, they both hit the same speed, no matter how big or small, heavy or light they were. But that's in a vacuum without wind resistance or
right.
anything like that to be brought in. And I clearly didn't watch enough Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, not Mr. Oh wait, Bill Nye the Science Guy, like that was, they were around. I think maybe my problem was watching like Back to the Future the animated series, because they did science on there too at the top of the show that you would have Christopher Lloyd and like, somebody as Lloyd's like feet underneath a DeLorean or something. And they'll have Bill Nye before he became that science guy doing science experiments, and then I think later on he would have his own show. So that's where I was spending most of my time, but was not paying attention to mass and what'd you say? Was it terminal velocity? Was there something else? Another term?
That was the other guard
Ah,
says mentions a clarifying about terminal velocity, and then gets
yeah.
interrupted.
I know it's a Charlie Sheen movie. Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Probably like
Oh, I watched that
94. So
sometime this year actually, first
is
time.
that right? Is it
Yeah.
enjoyable still?
I mean it's yeah, James Gandolfini is like the villain
Oh,
or the bad guy
I
in
don't
it,
remember this.
which
Okay.
is great. Yeah. It's fun enough.
For s- for some reason, I always think of like Chasers, with him and like Tom Berenger
I
from
haven't seen that.
is that Charlie Sheen? Maybe it's not Sheen, but Christy Swanson's also in it. Um, they're like Navy men,
Oh,
and
The
I don't
Chase?
know the Chase. Maybe it's the Chase. What's Chasers?
I don't know.
Okay, Chasers is a movie too.
But I know I'm
But
pretty sure The Chase is Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson. That's the only
okay,
thing I know about it.
shit. Now I want to look up Chasers. Do you mind looking up Chasers real quick just to see
Yeah,
who's in
sure.
that, and I'll
No
continue. Yeah.
problem.
All right. Yeah. Look up who was in Chasers. Okay.
Chasers.
So yeah, I do
Okay,
like this because yeah.
I have an
Got it.
answer.
Okay.
uh, Chasers is directed by Dennis Hopper, but it
Oh.
has Erica Eleniak, Tom Berenger, and
Okay.
Dennis Hopper. Gary Busey,
Okay. Okay.
Dean
So Tom
Stockwell, Crispin
Berenger.
Glover. This movie's great.
Like they're like Navy people, right? Navy guys.
Yeah,
Okay. So it
the
was a different
cover looks
blonde.
like it
My
would be
apologies.
like a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got the blondes mixed up. So I knew. So I had like one guy right with the name. Mixed up two different other titles. Okay. So yeah, I think this scene with Stu and the other officers, it was to kind of remind us, or at least like set up that Stu is different from any other lawman, even though he's
Hmm.
like formerly a lawman now at this point, and is on the good side of things. I think they're trying to kind of set like not necessarily boundaries, but like now we're starting to kind of get into the groups, right? So like, that's why Sweet Tooth is recruiting and we already met the convoy, and now like this episode is lawman heavy. So we're seeing a lot of them. And this is I guess kind of their episode. Yeah, no, we had and the law one, but that was a little bit different. That was like Mike and Stu being incorporated. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of point out that yeah, I thought it was interesting. This one has like a lot of new characters. We got the
Hmm.
the pissing pair, that we got the brother sister duo, which also, by the way, I don't remember. I think I wrote this down, but just in case I overlook it later. But did you notice on Jamie and Carl's uniform, did you ever take a look at their badge, how it
Oh
looks?
no.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to get into this discussion now, but their uniform obviously looks different than that of the ones on the street, where it's kind of more like khaki colored uniforms with the navy blue bulletproof jacket, vest. And then inside, at least to my recollection, you got Jamie and Carl who are both wearing kind of, your traditional police blues,
Hmm.
maybe a variation with some black, but their sheriff, the law enforcement badge is white, and I can't get a good visual of it to get an idea of what the material might be. So I was wondering if this is like, like a rookie badge, like are they brand new? Is that kind of like equivalent to like a white belt in martial arts, like starting off fresh? I don't know if you picked up on any of that stuff.
Yeah, not on the badge. But like I mean, it seems like because they're reporting to Stone, and they're kind of they're at HQ, they're in, they're kind of like patrolling the other officers, like taking account
I
of
see.
them as well. Yeah, I took them as being, kind of like closer to like right under Stone.
Okay, and what did he refer to Shepard as? And yeah, because I just kind of joked and said that he recapped episode three. Did he refer to him as like my right hand man?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Referred to, yeah. They killed my second in command, I think.
Second in command. Okay, yeah. See, so I'm trying to figure out kind of like if the uniforms mean a certain thing. So that's something that maybe Liz Vestola can answer because it's not related to season two unless some of the lawmen come back. We don't know. Um, yeah, that would be interesting to find out. Okay, chasing. So the lady officer comes running through the room, and she is stabbed through the door with a machete. and Sweet Tooth uses her body as a shield and
Mhm.
kills the two that were shooting at him and decapitates a fourth as he runs into the room. And I do like the one that was like giving Stu shit is like crawling away like a coward. He's like army crawling is what we would call it. Um, any other bit of note here? I think it
Yeah.
was Stacey Perry who did the I I'm gonna mess up her title, but she does these special effects makeup, the department head.
Mhm.
I believe if I remember correctly, the story was like that severed head wasn't even like the mold or the likeness of that actor is just like what was available to them or something.
Yeah.
And so like it's really really quick, so
Oh,
I don't think anybody would have like noticed anyway.
oh no, yeah, it totally works. Absolutely sold. Yeah, and I just
Yeah.
love right after yeah, he decapitates him and then catches the head, and he kind of just stands there, waiting for applause, like, and then says, how do you like the show, or something like that, as everyone starts clapping.
He does say he shouts out at one point, "I hate cops," and he says, "And scene." So like you mentioned like the way he's holding that severed head. My question was that a reference to Hamlet? Like, isn't he kind of like you think of that scene? Isn't he like in the plays holding a skull or something?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the to be or not to be, or
Right.
whatever.
I think Arnold was also doing one in Last Action Hero, perhaps. I kind of
Oh yeah.
forget. Am
Yeah,
I
yeah.
making that up? Okay.
No, yeah, I'm
No,
pretty
he
sure
does
that
that scene.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, yeah, I definitely think that could be a reference to Sweet Tooth's actor background.
Range. He's got range. He can do
Yeah.
Shakespeare,
Yeah.
you know.
He's like a
Cut.
Leslie Nielsen, classically trained, did a lot of theater, also great comedian.
Oh yeah. Are you gonna watch the Naked Gun?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'll check it out. Yeah, that looks good. I I would have preferred a Police Academy before a Naked Gun reboot remake, but
Mm.
I'll take this still. Like I
I mean,
right, we
we
haven't
still
had a
got
good Police Academy.
we still got Gutenberg. He can come back
He
and
could
do a
be
cameo.
Commandant
What's the Yeah, I was
Mahoney,
gonna say it. What's the the
Lassard
villain?
passed
The
and
villain, yeah.
Harris
The
or
Lassard, is that it?
is it Lassard? Lassard, I think was the kind of the idiot like commander in chief kind of deal. And then you
Yeah,
had the one with the cane that was always like busting their balls.
yeah, him. That
And
would be a good. You could get Gutenberg in as that guy and play a real
yeah,
heel turn.
yeah, absolutely. So it's there, you guys. Please, Academy, come on, let's get that. Yeah, standing ovations, including Stu, and I just wrote, way to read the room, Stu. So I don't know if he had committed either way. If this is a guy he should tag along with or just say the right things to survive. But he seems to be doing. He's seeing that like, okay, well, this guy seems to like the attention, so he stands up and applaud too. I
Yeah,
don't think he buys it, just quite yet.
yeah. He's survived this long playing off of his strength, and I think that's knowing who to kind of appease. Like, he's in this situation. He's like, oh well, the guy with the giant machete holding a hand. Yeah,
Who hates cops?
you're
And
yeah,
I
you're
I am a cop. He can't know that.
absolutely. Hey, buddy, I'm with you.
All right. We cut back to the Haggard loner and a safe and unconscious John. This Mr. Loner looked like he's getting ready for a freak off of sorts. And
So,
even doing a
yeah,
little bit of
vegetable shortening rubbed all over him.
he could have just been sunscreen, for all we know. We don't know. It's the apocalypse. People are packaging things in different things, recycling duty, for other resources. But this a little bit of a role playing conversation with himself. This I like how John awakens and saw enough to call him like a nasty motherfucker. He says it too. He's just beside himself. But he is pretty nasty.
Hmm.
But I gotta say, I do dig the tramp stamp and the gas mask jockstrap.
Yeah, absolutely. So this
Now,
fashion.
what do you? So let's talk about that gas mask jockstrap. Like, is this so that way you're kind of keeping the air around your area purified to prevent other like STDs and such?
it I mean, you could interpret it either way, whether he's trying to keep the outside world from infecting his Johnson, or it's just so awful in there that he has to protect the rest of the world from it. um but yeah, I love the when he's just standing there and it's just the tube for the filter is just kind of jiggling. It's fantastic. Need
It's
more
pretty nice.
gifts.
Yeah. I'm sure there's similar items out there for sure, probably in black leather. But he's startled by the noise, but turns around to see John pretending to still be out. And I don't know how Anthony Mackie was able to keep a straight face, or at least I wonder like how many takes it took to get through this. But did you write this down in detail, kind of what happens, like the step by step by chance?
Well, yeah, so let's see, he starts to unzip John's pants. Um and at that he says, oh yeah, at that point John like wakes up and he said the haggard loner says that he has a live one, which he then says, like, oh, I need to like put you back to sleep or something. And when he said that I've got a live one here, like I assumed that, like, oh, he assumed he was dead. Like
Right.
not unconscious. He was just dead.
Oh yeah.
But
So I
uh
wrote lots.
yeah, go
Because
for it.
that's going to come up a little bit later after my notes here. So he says, "Down goes the zippy yippee," right? So sounds some sort of expression that he has, and it rolls off the tongue. So this isn't the first time he said it. Okay, he knows he fucking he knows it. Um, and then also, I suppose he was impressed by the size of John's penis, right? And because then he whispers, "Can I keep you?" And I hate that because in Casper, like that's kind of how it ends, right? Like Casper says that to Christina Ricci, and I'm just like, now if I see that, it's gonna make me think of like just the Meadows to ruin it for me. It's like this wholesome Casper movie I'm watching with my kids, maybe, and I'll think of like the haggard loner, which they gonna keep you. Oh. But John steals a knife from the loner while he was being sniffed, and opens his eyes, and when he thinks he's had enough, he's let's see. Oh, he opens his eyes when he's had enough. Okay, so he asks, "Where's Quiet?" And he's like, "No, I didn't see any girl." And things escalate as the loner explains, because he says he's found John laying there on the road, basically left for dead, and just asking for it. So he sees a corpse, or what he thinks is a corpse, and is like, well, he's just laying out here, so he just wants to be fucked. She's only asking for. So that's the I just think this was like a really funny scene. And like I said, like this is a well paced 29 minutes and all of this is happening, you know,
Oh yeah. It's just, I
pretty
mean, it
crazy.
like we're looking at yeah, three or four different groups, of people that's just cutting back
Yeah.
between. Yeah, it's great.
And then they wrestle and the loner somehow accidentally stabs himself in the eye. Or did you see anything different?
No, yeah, it all happens really quick. Yeah, like he goes for the knife and realizes that, John had taken it, and John tries to tackle him, and tackles him just straight into the groin. Like they're both on the ground, and John's just fighting to keep away from that gas mask. But then it just
Uh,
quickly like pans up, and yeah, the uh, uh, knife is in his eye, and it almost like, because as we cut up, like he releases his hand from, like the knife, and then as he kind of like dies there, but like it almost looks like like a low budget kind of like, oh, the actor, sticking
right.
something like onto their face and then quickly, kind of taking it away.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the blade wasn't even there. It's probably just a handle, and then they insert that in later. Is my guess. But yeah, I did wonder. I didn't dwell on it for too long, but I did wonder why have it look like it was an accident, a freak accident, as opposed to John seriously defending himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that changes anything if we had it the other way.
I mean, yeah, we don't really see John too often, like just coldly, or
Straight up.
I guess it's not coldly
Yeah,
as defending himself, but just like actually like murdering someone, killing someone, like
that's
that up
fair.
close and personal. I could definitely see the writers just wanting it to be like there's a little bit of an out. Yeah, he is intending, probably to kill him to get away, but as fate happens, like it kind of just takes care of itself, and now
Yeah,
John doesn't have to worry about it.
right. It could also be something like if he's gonna kill someone, like mono a mano, like maybe it's got to be worth it, right? Because everybody else that the no-name vultures, like those typically, well, I don't want to say happen off screen because we did get one off screen at the top of this episode, but even in the opening sequence in the first episode, he's shooting people,
Mm-hmm.
but that's, vehicular combat. So
Say
I don't think there's
you get a little bit of like a disconnect mentally when it's like it's two cars,
right.
shooting at
That's
each
true.
other versus like a knife fight.
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to try to think too far ahead and kind of, reverse our details. I kind of want to wait till as we get closer, but maybe that's also what it is. It's just like John's never really going to be killing somebody in cold blood. And if he does, it's going to be like something kind of meaningful and
Mm-hmm.
with a purpose. So, but still, like he didn't ask for like a Diddy party. Like I think he had every right. Like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
had he woken up, a minute or two later, like, oh, what he probably would have done to that man.
Oh boy. John finds a note on the windshield left for him by Quiet. Sadly, she had to use one of the pages from the Granny Sutra.
Mhm.
Now you talked a little bit about it. Any details that
So
you
we do
saw
see
from that image?
it is the position is titled the hit and run.
Okay.
Uh, and yeah, it's like two people crossed on a passenger and driver seat, kind of like you're utilizing the entire
Yeah.
front, of
It,
the
for
vehicle.
those that are listening at home, Tyler was demonstrating
Oh
with
yeah,
his
sorry.
hands.
Yes,
It's quite funny, actually.
crossing like scissors. There's
Okay.
probably a name for that. I don't know.
Sure.
You can think of it yourself. Uh,
Chris cutting, Chris crossing.
yeah, crossroading.
There you go. Crossroading. Okay, there you go. Um, yeah, I wonder if I mean, I'm sure you could read into it too. Like, what it was just a happy accident that she pulled that one out, and it also makes for a fun visual. Or it's just like, like I would hate to think this soon that like it might be something like, hey, I would try this if the chance ever came across, like something like that. So we'll have to kind of do a side by side, once
uh,
we get to such a scene.
and John makes or notices that she spelled his name without the H, like a
Yeah.
psychopath.
Your thoughts on that?
it, it must be very frustrating to have your name misspelled so easily. But yeah.
It could be. I was just thinking that they were taking a little jabs at friends that they know spell John Jon, because I know
Mm-hmm.
some, and so I just thought it might be just one of those playful jabs at somebody that they knew personally. But yeah, John makes that comment. What psychopath spells John without the H? And for a guy that takes things quite literally at times. I feel like he would have been like, what psychopath puts a H in John? Like, because now you have to make that extra letter silent, which is just so
Yeah,
unnecessary. I
you can fit
remember
less
when,
letters on a license plate now.
oh, absolutely. Kind of like how they do with the titles. But I remember in the thick of like the things going on in the country, but also in the world in 2020, I remember a tweet that said like, fuck it, let's just remove L from salmon. I'm like, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
You
fuck it,
know,
let's do it.
we don't pronounce it anyway. So or okay. So sadly, use a page for Granny Sutra, and I love that it's also figuratively a Dear John letter. Like this is kind of
Oh
us
yeah.
breaking up. This is why, you're
Mm-hmm.
not coming along. Um, Now Quiet's voiceover, it explains why she poisoned him and admits to killing Shepard. And I love she added in the letter, it was a whole thing. And like I love that it's also a voiceover, so you hear like Stephanie like say it the way she would actually be saying it to him. So, oh, this is a whole thing. Like, I'm just sparing you the details. Don't worry, basically. Um, but the next comment, oh, so I love the bit how John is responding to her as he's reading along, but then like the next comment would be a response to what he just said. So it's like they're literally having conversation.
Yeah.
And she ends it kind of like Doc Brown in Back to the Future 3, where he tells Marty to not and try to come after him, but does anyway. So that's just the vibe I got from that. She ends it with advising him to become the first milkman without an expiration date. And as he says out loudly how sweet that really was, it continues and concludes, and go fuck yourself. Just because. So I like that. Like if you just stay to the
Mhm.
very end, it's like, oh, they're having a conversation. Oh, that's really sweet. Go fuck yourself. Like that, it just makes the most sense for them. Um,
And then yeah, when we get John bidding quiet Jello
yes.
and seemingly off to go his own way.
Yeah, and how did you interpret the way he questions or whatever the hell your name was? Because it kind of it goes from um Jello quiet, and then like the tone of whatever your name was, it was kind of almost ominous.
Yeah, I took it as like he's saying like fine, you don't want me to follow, I won't follow, good riddance or whatever. But
Oh,
he
oh,
clearly
okay,
does. He clearly still cares because he's like I didn't even get to learn your name, so it's like
okay.
still kind of like eating at him. He's not able to just like
A
cut
little, a
ties
little,
and
right, a little bitter. There was really no sense of closure. They were close enough, but he didn't even know her name. And I think that might be kind of a subtle callback or whatever of to I think his discussion with Raven, right? In maybe the first episode where she was like, "You don't even know her name, right?" Or like she
mm-hmm.
calls him out for that, like because he refers to her as quiet. And I think at some point Raven mentions like you don't even know her real name, or picks up that he doesn't. So he could be that as well. Um, Wyatt pulls over by a statue of Agent Stone, and the inscription on the base says, "A man of the law who birthed a new world order." And it's also placed in front of a place called like the what is it? The Palm or the something Palm. I had it written down here somewhere, but I thought it was like probably just like a resort or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Royal Palm. There we go. Um, It looks like he had a mustache when it was sculpted, and I said it'd be funny if it were 3D printed. Really hard to say what it was, but uh ah, so Quiet's driving around and seeing this officer scattered all over. I was just really getting on her last nerves, and and this is kind of to what you were saying earlier about like Quiet remembering Loud like a certain way physically. I thought you were talking about how uh, you know, through this conversation with Loud, that she's also coming to terms that, maybe she actually likes John more than she would like to admit, and also talking about like, oh, she was checking out his backside, so because he was shirtless. So we do kind
Yeah,
of get that confirmation exactly what
yeah,
she was zoning in on.
yeah. Loud is like mentioning something like you're. I don't remember the exact words, but like, oh, you're always like miserable. You have to allow yourself to feel something other than just like being pissed off uh and angry, always trying to uh look at the worst version of the situation. But yeah, that's where we get here where she kind of in an instant reimagines him less dead. He doesn't have the bullet holes, he's not bleeding, he's not he's a little bit more cleaned up, kind of how we saw him in the first introduction. Which yeah, I like that kind of the acknowledging of just like, oh, this is just me processing, figuring
Right.
this shit out, and so I'll make it a little easier on myself and not have to look at the worst version of you.
Yeah. Because like I said, there's a lot going on, and I'm just like, you got the dialogue, then you got the stories that you're trying to follow, then you got like all these fun little things on screen as well. Just all those little details. Um, it doesn't, and I don't feel like they're trying to cram everything in too. Like again, it's
Mm-hmm.
just so meticulously paced. Um, Officer Jamie Roberts approaches Quiet, says that the vehicle is assigned to patrol duty, and asks why she's idling. So kind of like what you were saying that, you get the impression that they kind of also supervise, the other patrolmen and just making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Um, I wonder why the Roberts have the white badge. Okay, so that was the notes that I made about that. Carl comes out to back up his sister, and this is when Quiet drives off and escapes the Roberts. In a wide shot, we see the statue. Okay, I already said that royal palm. Okay, so I'm all over the place here. Any other bit to note there? Obviously, earlier when when they discussed, it wasn't the map maker that Stone wanted them to look for. It was the four finger woman and the
Mhm.
milkman, and so she notices that this woman has four fingers. So
Yep.
that's kind of what
Yeah.
clues are in. It was
Yeah.
kind of
That tips
tense,
her off.
actually. Yeah. Um, we cut back to the DMV and see the aftermath of a bloodbath. Sweet Tooth is prancing as he does, and he has new followers just right behind him. Your thoughts on when Sweet Tooth met Stewie?
Uh, yeah, I like this. They're uh, walking through kind of the carnage that they've left, and it's just like a Spirit Halloween full stock
Display.
of just limbs and torsos and stuff. And yeah, everyone else that's now following Sweet Tooth is kind of like they kind of have their gang get up. They're all kind of like similarly like dressed up, got face masks and things like that. And then Stu is just kind of at the back, just being like, "What the fuck?" Like, just
He does
looking
say
at
that, yeah.
arms and everything. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I love
that
the new coupling of Stu and Sweet Tooth, the S
I like
brothers.
that coupling. Yes, the Dice Brothers, kindred spirits, because yeah, the S's, they're both big boys. A lots in common. This is when Stu gets confronted by that other officer that escaped
Mm-hmm.
earlier, and I do wonder what the direction was for Mike Mitchell. Right? Do
Mm-hmm.
we? I still do we call him Mitch? Is he goes by Mitch, right? On Doughboys, or does he go by
Yeah.
Mike Mitch? Or
Yeah.
okay,
Mitch is what I
okay,
always refer to
because
as.
right, it's just going to get a little difficult with season two because Michael James Shaw now we know is Axel. That was, I don't think we talked about that the last time, but we did get confirmation from a Peacock reel on Instagram because Anthony Mackie has this little bit with Scarlett Johansson who's releasing Jurassic Park, and he talks about like, oh, we got a man that's like half man, half machine, and then they cut to Axel. I'm like, yes, okay, so there we go. Um, so he goes by Michael. MJ, I know as Michael, but they call him MJ, and then Mike Mitch, who we will call Mitch. So, and then we have the character of, Mike and Stu, Mike played by Taj Mont. So it's gonna be a whole thing. But anyway, so Mitch, okay. Um, so I wonder what his direction was for this moment because Stu has his like eyes closed and blood splatter like all over his face, right? And
Mhm.
and you can see Mitch like kind of doing this thing with his tongue while wincing. Like it lingers enough on his face that you start to look at things. But he's doing this thing with the tongue that's kind of like drawing more attention, at least for me. And I'm just like, it's just even more disgusting and like visceral. Like you could almost like taste the iron watching him wince. It's I don't know if you know what I'm talking about at all, but it's pretty
I
gross.
did not notice it. No, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If go back to that scene and just watch his because I love to watch facial reactions. And so again, this guy just gets like sliced up right in front of him. Now he's got like flesh and blood all in his mouth and all his face. And what he does with his mouth is quite interesting. So take a look. I'll probably turn that into a reel. Um, Kindred spirits. He Sweet Tooth catches Stu looking at something behind him, and then we focus on Mike, who happens to be hiding this entire time. And Stu, being a loyal friend, doesn't out him, but scared him enough that he peed his pants.
Hmm.
Anything to add? And also, Mike and Ike's or Skittles?
Oh, Skittles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so. And I may have to always give it Skittles for having the slogan "Taste the Rainbow." That's pretty amazing. You can't top that.
I mean, I've never seen a Mike and Ike's commercial, you know,
Is that
but of
fair?
course,
Hey,
that speaks to their longevity. They don't need them.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but
I
yeah, I
think I
like
would.
the
I think I
Or
would
go
still
ahead.
pick a like a nerds clusters or even like a gobstopper, before a
Ooh,
Mike and Ike's.
yeah. If I'm going for like fruity, possibly gummy kind of stuff, yeah. I want a Starburst. It's good.
These
But
ropes, those are I'm really digging the ropes where they have basically like the Smarties on the inside, like crushed up Smarties.
oh
The
yeah.
powder, yeah, with the like a red vine rope or the ones I get, I think is made by red vines or the red ropes at least. Anyway, so that's something I've been getting at the gas stations and your 7-Elevens during break. We cut to anything else to add on this? It's not necessarily their meet cute, but it's is a kind of a cute meeting that they're
Uh,
having.
no, yeah. I like the Sweet Tooth, like right after Sweet Tooth saves Stu, and you see a hand, come out of frame or in the frame to like hand to like lift Stu up, and he's like, "Here's a hand. I mean, you can't have this one. This one's mine." And it's a severed hand that Sweet Tooth's holding. It's very good.
It is very good, and I just love like it's kind of a trophy. He wears it like on his chest, like underneath the straps a little bit, which I think is fun. Um,
The seeing the,
this
the the kindness that comes out of Sweet Tooth when it's someone that he isn't trying to kill,
yeah,
is heartwarming. He's
it
a
really
very
is.
lovable character.
Yeah. We cut to John driving on a lonely road, reminiscing on the few times with Quiet when she wasn't angry with him. And I watched, I'm just like, all right, what clips are we using? It's all the happy moments. Like, not one of it is she snarling. Even in the previous episode where he catches her like after Granny Dread's like ceremony, like he waves at her and then she like scowls at him, and they cut before that, but they do show that moment as well. Um, he sees a sign that says your dream home awaits you. And what did you take from that sign that we're seeing as a
Oh,
visual?
well, yeah. So I mean, like, because yeah, previously he's just thinking about Quiet and thinking of all of their positive moments and remembering those, and then seeing the sign, and then he just starts picturing all of the events of New San Francisco. Talking to Raven, getting the promise of this will be your new life, and so like yeah, it's he's the two things that are pulling him, like this person that he does care for and he's grown attached to, and then this other thing that is his main goal, but he's been kind of, diverted from a little bit. And yeah, I mean, if the as he pulls up to a Chicago sign, here's the if there's ever a titular, like representation of the crossroads, like
Yes.
here it is.
He that is his crossroad. He pops in another CD. I didn't pick up on because it definitely
He just
wasn't the
pops it
song that.
in.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he pops in another CD to make some time is what he says to Evelyn with his car and heads to Chicago. Um yeah, you
It was a
mentioned
blue CD, right?
I could not say confidently,
Okay.
but
I just had to look up the Hanson CD, what it actually looked like. It
yeah, I
wasn't
know
that.
that. Well, the actual CD is yellow and orange. I don't know about the cover, um, the album cover, but the sign that he was looking at, that's kind of creating the crossroads. If you go straight, maybe it is towards Topeka or at least in a shorter distance, rather than the opposite direction, which is taking him to Chicago. But that sign does not have an exit number or anything. It doesn't say like next exit, which is a little confusing. But also, which is puzzling, it says two, three, four-bedroom homes under $150,000. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't, but wow. Sign me up.
Yes, 150. So that's going to be your max. If you, I don't know, if you want a fifth bedroom, maybe it's even cheaper than 150. I don't know, but two, three, four-bedroom homes under 150. So, I mean, I guess maybe a two bedroom home is like 75,000, maybe that's what it is, but still nothing over 150. I guess maybe people just don't have enough, money, but are people still able to sell houses and stuff? Like, I guess that's kind of my question. Like how,
Oh, I mean, I the billboard I just took as a like old world billboard, like
Yeah, so even still, well, I guess yeah. If the fall happened in the early aughts, then I could probably see it in different parts of the country it being like 150,000, and
yeah. I mean,
but
this is
still,
when they
I
were
don't know,
just
it's
handing
different.
out, mortgages to children, like, oh, you want a house?
Mhm.
Come on in.
Fair enough. I may have been one of those children. Um, okay, thoughts about. Okay, I think we said enough on that sign. But yeah, I'll have to see how the next episode opens up because I'm just like, but you showed us him heading, not even that, how the damn episode ends. We'll get there. Okay, so your thoughts on about this moment of Agent Stone getting his shoe shined by a man named Cliff?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember what they were really talking about. I just remember that,
Golfing,
he's
maybe golfing.
yeah, he's like he's shining his shoes, and it seems like a very pleasant, like they're kind
Yeah,
of cordial with each other. But then Stone kind of immediately is like, "Oh, there's still a spot you got to shine, or something," which I
yeah.
I took as like, "No, there isn't. You just want the guy to just keep working."
Yeah, because like I really felt bad for him. Like Cliff has this one scene, and I felt bad for Cliff. I was
Yeah,
just like because Cliff thinks that they are friendly enough, and then thinks that Stone is like joshing with him, and it's like isn't. And then the look on his face is like, no, keep cleaning. Like this is not clean enough, or something. I'm just like, okay, so
I think it's that. Yeah, like uh you think like, oh, Stone's the leader or whatever. Stone, he has reached this like top position. He doesn't need to keep like pushing people down, or whatever, but he keeps that separation, of like,
right,
no, like, you are lesser than me, you are at a lower position, so do not
right.
forget that. you know I
Right.
mean,
He's
he's a
setting his
cop.
boundaries, right?
Yeah,
It's just you are still beneath me. I know you by first name. That's it.
yeah,
And yeah, just kind of reminding him, no, we're not
we
friends.
can
This,
we can be friendly, we are not friends. Yeah.
yeah, you're probably still alive because you shined my shoes.
Yes.
Um, he received a call over the radio, from the Roberts, police code 146A. Did you look this up at all?
I did not.
I did. Okay, so now I couldn't find definitively if Topeka, Kansas or Topeka has that same code. There are variations depending on boundaries and jurisdictions, stuff like that. However, the LA police code says impersonating a peace officer.
Oh,
So
that would fit.
so that would fit. But territory might be in question for those that do, attempt to do such research. But hey, I just may not have found something where that's kind of more universal by default. Like okay, 146, and then like any letter following that is a different identifier because there was definitely like a B and C that kind of changed
Hmm.
what it would be, but I did, so that does exist. And I wrote, Carl gets a little horny and says, "Worry not, we'll bring you her teeth." To which Stone instructs him to not engage, and in that it's time he made an example out of her. What did you take like on Carl's response? Because like Jamie gives him a look, like, "What are you doing?" Like and like the look he's giving to Jamie is almost like, "Oh, he's gonna love this. Hey, let me say this." It's kind of
Yeah, I
funny.
think, yeah, one of them has a better idea of who Stone actually is as a
Okay,
as a person, versus, yeah, the one who's just like, oh, I'm gonna impress the boss, he's gonna love this.
right.
uh yeah, no, Stone wants it. He wants to take care
Um,
of it.
let's see. And what did you think about this moment as he looks over to the bloody teddy bear from his flashback in 103? And I noted that it's kind of hidden and placed in a way that only he could see it while standing in the room. Like the Roberts, they would have to kind of look behind the portrait or whatever is hanging on the shelf covering it. So it's obscuring it from anybody else in the room, I feel.
Yeah, I think, almost similar to like in the last episode with like the flowers or whatever, they're kind of hidden
Oh yeah,
behind the painting. It's something for him to not, it's not something to display for everyone. It's something for him to, be reminded, I guess, of how he got here, where he's at, or what needs to be done.
So what is that? Because I knew that I would definitely bring this up and that we would discuss it because and we talked to Jude about that episode and that very moment she wanted to kind of ask us how we felt and maybe what was in his headspace. And I'm trying to think like, is he keeping it as a reminder to not make rash decisions? And because he's telling Carl, do not engage. Like, let me handle this. But also in that scene in the flashback, he doubles up and kind of victim blames. Like, you guys brought this all upon yourself, like despite the decision that I made. So it's kind of I feel you read it you could probably read it either way, but I'm trying to get a sense that maybe we can agree on in
Yeah.
Stone's
Uh,
headspace.
yeah, I mean, I read it as he views himself as the major or the like the authority. Like, so he's going to do like whatever he needs to do. And whatever he chooses to do is the right thing to do. And if, in that situation, like, oh, something awful happens because of it, well, it's not really because of him. It's the poor decisions that the people you know, he shot, he killed, he did whatever, that's only happened because of something that they did. He's always in the right, essentially. And like, yeah, the
Yeah.
don't not making rash decisions, letting them uh telling them not to engage. It's because, well, he doesn't want them to have any of the responsibility, I guess. Like, this is his thing to deal with. Everyone else will fuck it up.
Right. Yeah, and it's almost maybe not too dissimilar from like Two Faces like double-sided coin, right? And it's just like it almost really doesn't matter what side it lands on because
it, it
yeah,
it's always a justification for whatever you want to do.
right. Yeah. We cut back to Loud and Quiet bickering, and he basically convinces her to bail. And as they make that decision, Stone radios in guard 22 and talks her into basically going back. She almost really didn't have a choice because like everybody was on the lookout for this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Roberts called it in. And he was able to incorporate the word of the day when referring to her boyfriend John.
Yes.
Your loquacious boyfriend. I must say I don't think I knew the definition of that word. I don't know
Oh
if I've
no,
ever
I
used it.
wouldn't. It's
So
a word that, yeah, I've heard, but absolutely would not be able to define to you. Uh,
yeah.
but I think
Um
that also helps speak to Stone. The I have this word a day calendar. I learned this word this morning, and I am making an effort to use it today.
I was almost trying to make a note and like it wasn't anything interesting really, but I was just like, I wonder it would be funny if this kind of goes back only as far as his encounter with like Loud in the first episode where he Loud tries to explain what a sister is to like Stone in front of his men. And like after killing him, I was like, never again will somebody ever question me on my vocabulary because I will learn words. So it could be that. I think that would be funnier. But
Mm-hmm.
hey, good on him for trying to learn new words and bettering himself or whatever.
Trying to better himself to spite other people.
There you go. Quiet turned around while being escorted. We go back to Sweet Tooth and Stu, who's helping him load up, and it appears they're about to part ways. And I guess being saved really meant a lot to Stu. And um, I just wrote, love how Sweet Tooth offers Stu an opportunity to join him on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sweet Tooth is talking to him and acknowledges that, hey, uh, I know you're not a wolf, but eventually you're
Right.
going to have to bite, and even puppies have fangs. And it's Sweet Tooth reaching out, and like, it does. You don't have to be big and tough like me, like, but you have your own tools you can take advantage of.
It's so good. It's such a great quote. And I forgot until you brought it up because I was trying to tell myself yesterday, I was just like, oh, be sure to ask him if he wrote that quote down. Because I feel like that's something you would have written down. But I also like how Stu is like, I'll help you find your fangs, or something like that. Like it's very sincere. So
Yeah.
I'm shipping these two. Um Now he's got a sit bitch because Harold's riding shotgun,
Yep.
of course, and with no clue of his own. Because I was also wondering, on my first rewatch, I was just like, what was his motivation to continue driving around? Because the tournament is not happening yet, and like the vehicular, all of that we haven't come to that yet. So we get it right here, right?
Hmm.
Because like I kind of forget how, and maybe you could fill me in, but there is a discussion of like Sweet Tooth mentioning how he loved like the applause he was getting, because he killed the cops or whatever. And so like Stu has this idea. Well, we got this map, there's all these different posts with people like me that are incarcerated. We can help free them and we can make some FFL. Have you heard of these FFLs?
No.
Fans for
What's an
life.
FFL?
So
Ah,
so yeah, I made that up. Um Because I just wrote that down. I go, oh, it could be a new thing. We have fans for life or FFL. So that's got to be a T-shirt. Sweet Tooth and FFL somewhere, in blood
yeah.
or something. Um, Maybe like the Toxie stance, right? Like Sweet Tooth is like doing this Toxie stance with like the machete, and then it's Stu like on his leg, right? Is that how the
Yeah.
poster is? I kind of forget. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like Stu's grabbing onto one leg, looking up at him, I think, and then like just FFL stands for life. So there's a T-shirt idea, guys. I'm not artistic enough. Um, Funny bit of him telling the others there that there's no more room, and suggests they carpool. So
Yeah.
at least he's safe. Yeah. We cut back to Quiet being escorted by two vehicles, which are then directed by Stone to fall back so he can have her to himself as she enters an abandoned amusement park. And again, if you guys remember back to Radix video, he says that this Thrills and Spills Park is a nod to what was it? I think he said the PlayStation 3 Twisted Metal, whichever year that was. Um,
Yeah, the amusement park level in Twisted Metal for PS3.
Now we get a very little bit of backstory, but did you pick up on anything that he's telling Quiet as she's driving in?
Uh, yeah, I mean, she's just Stone is saying like this. He used to come here every week.
Yeah.
It was his favorite place. The first time he got a tickle pickle was on the amusement park or on
Yeah.
the
His
Ferris
first
wheel.
pickle tickle there, yeah.
But that his favorite part of the park is the midway because he loves the games, and that's where they kind of
Now
meet head to
the
head.
the I did not look it up, but the midway, did that mean anything to you? Because on the closed
I mean,
caption, it's capitalized, the midway.
it it's a I mean it's a term that I've heard. I wouldn't have like clocked it as like specifically kind of like the boardwalk of games or something like at an
Okay,
amusement park or something like that. But I've definitely heard like going to the arcade at the Midway or something like that.
got
Mostly
it.
from East Coast people.
Okay. The first thing that popped into my head, and I know it's not a reference to that because of the addition of the Midway, but Midway is what, I think created Mortal Kombat before like Another World
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah, Nether Realms. I think it is, but Warner Brothers. But yeah, Midway was definitely around, and yeah, this was just Twisted Metal was Sony, so I don't remember any other David Jaffe, right? Is that his name? I don't know what other
Or oh yeah, David Jaffe.
uh, Jaffe. Yeah, I don't remember what other game brands he was like associated with. But anyway, I mean, anything I
Oh,
say, I would just be making
God
up.
of War.
God of War. Yep. Okay,
That's
there you
probably
go.
the big other one.
So yeah, I was just like, okay. So it just might be like a slight reference to if you know, you know kind of thing. I definitely went over my head. Um, oh damn, my nose jumped back up to the top. Okay, on the road
Yeah,
notes. Ah, okay.
they kind of meet on opposite ends of this road as Stone and Quiet.
Yeah, so yeah, she thinks she spots him in a cruiser, and as she charges it, she gets T-boned by him. And this was clearly a setup. And then because it becomes like an action sequence, not a long one, but I just wrote notes on Quiet versus Stone.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, we kind of yeah, they're shooting at each other and it's almost like a joust because they keep
Yeah,
like they keep shooting, directly at each other and then swerving going by, and like, twice giving him the finger as, while as they like kind of drive past each other. And they do that like one or two times, kind of like coming at each other and then bypassing each other and turning back around.
I think he may have even flipped her off
Oh,
later.
maybe,
I
yeah.
might I might be making that up, but I like how you mentioned Joust because in the previous episode we saw like a Knight's Tale like movie poster, and there's this slick move that I think after Stone launches a missile, she kind of like does this like spin drifting thing where like the missile just like goes through like her windows down and
Hmm.
just she just misses it completely. So I like the idea of it joust and like she's in a on a horse and that's basically the maneuver that she would be doing. She flips him off as she dodges that projectile, and after some close calls, he does hit her with a missile, which flips the car, and he's enraged to see her survive the crash, that he guns it and charges at her while firing, and is saved by John and one of those red missile things to the tune of Bop blaring.
Hmm.
So I wonder how many times he's listened. Well, that wasn't the CD he popped in at first, so he must have finished that CD at least before he started the Hanson album and he got to track two, or he had it queued up waiting to save the day.
Just A B repeat, just
That's
only this
it.
song.
Um, let's see. He gets out of the car to find a badly injured Quiet who points out that he looks pissed. She's amused by this as well, and John says he is because he only had one of those missiles. And she passes out, and he picks her up and carries her to the car as credits roll. And then I wrote, this would have been the mid-season finale. Now, I don't actually know that to be true. I don't know if when Twisted Metal was green lit if they knew it was just going to be straight up streaming because I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but a lot of the breaks in these episodes they look like legit commercial breaks. Like this would
Oh
be a
yeah.
perfect a point to put an ad or whatever.
Yeah, you get a lot of those like the like dun dun like music sting, kind of like right
Yeah.
before it would like go to black.
Yeah, and the fact that it is 10 episodes and this being episode five, I'm calling it that. But if again, I don't know this to be true, but if it is, how do you feel with how it ended being kind of the mid-season cliffhanger?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think that would definitely fit. Um, yeah, I never, it's weird. I never like even kind of considered it being a like televised show. And I think maybe just from seeing it now, just the swearing and the like sexual content and stuff that we get, scattered throughout. Like they would have to neuter it so much for TV.
You know what? I know that they've been playing on Sci-Fi because MJ, the
Oh, really?
showrunner, yeah, he'll post in his story like, "Hey, tonight on Sci-Fi," and so I'm kind of curious if it's been neutered, like what you just said, or are they just straight up using all the language and because I
I mean, it's cable,
I
so yeah,
don't
they could.
yeah I don't know if there's any actual nudity even in the later episodes. I think everything is very implied.
Yeah,
um
it's all like very
or
close to,
yeah,
but not, I mean, unless you count, because we get like man ass, like
right.
that's, that's
I
so
mean
that's
that should be
everywhere.
default.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, that's our
Yeah,
daily lives.
it really is. And so like the reason I bring up the whole mid-season finale thing, it's only because of covering Cobra Kai. Like that's what we learned about that first season. They didn't know it was going to be released weekly, like an episodic show. And they filmed it in such just in case. But then it ended up being streaming all 10 episodes, boom. So the same thing with Peacock, it ended up being all 10 episodes dropped at once. But it does feel like it almost could have been we could have been just getting an episode a week. They actually did that with Quantum Leap, the reboot, which only lasted two seasons. So, and that's also Peacock. That's why I bring that one up. So it's kind of interesting. I'm glad that it's streamable that we can binge all of them because I don't know if that really made me go, oh, I really need to see next week because like Quiet passes out and she's like your when you're a lead here. And so like I'm not buying that she's you know, going to
No,
be
like
out very long.
yeah, unless it's unless it's one of your first TV shows or something that you're watching, yeah, it's uh it would be a stunning turn of events for them to actually kill her
Right.
at this point. So yeah,
It
it
would be.
it definitely comes hits for me as like uh just another kind of like ending transition to the next episode.
Yeah. Because for me, like if I was let's say this dropped at midnight and I wanted to watch some episodes, I would have been okay stopping at five. Like I wouldn't have been like, ooh, if I could just squeeze one more in, like five, I'm like, okay, hey, that's a nice break, and then
Mm.
let's come back. And maybe we do need a nice break. Um, but I'm just thinking of like the Sweet Tooth reveal at the end of episode one, and then they take us back like 30 seconds previously or something like that, or 2 minutes, I kind of forget, and then showing us what led up to that. But yet the reveal of like Sweet Tooth in the faraway distance, and you're just thinking, holy shit, okay, I want to see what happens next for sure. So I don't know, maybe it's a little moment of levity from a lot of the violent violence in this episode. But yeah, overall, I like it. But just kind of just like I was thinking, oh, would this had been like the mid-season finale, or if they considered that if they weren't like certain on the format of it prior to its release. That's the only
Yeah,
reason that I brought that up.
TV production's so weird now. Like I don't even
Yeah,
how do you write and plan for stuff like that.
yeah.
Not
So
knowing if like you're gonna have 3 months in the middle of your show that's just like, oh, we're gonna take a break for a while, it'll come back.
yeah, I think the next episode, I feel, yeah, we're getting that backstory that we kind of mentioned, well, with Quiet and Loud before the fall. No, no, it was after the fall, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yes,
after.
yes,
It's just yeah, before we had been introduced to them.
right. Because the other flashback prior to the fall, they were working like in the orchard fields or something like that, or some sort of fields, and just wanted a better life. And then the fall happens, I think, and then it kind of changes the course of their lives, I feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll have the details when we get to that next episode. So you mentioned that like this episode is like, it kind of gets everywhere where they kind of need to be, sets them on these paths. But after like discussing it, does it change for you at all? Do you think it's still right there? Do you think it's a little
I'm
bit better than when we started?
I mean, it does. It has some, of my favorite stuff, like the loner,
Uh, yeah,
and getting Sweet Tooth and Stu together. But it's I don't know. It moves. It does move very fast. It doesn't feel like it's 22 minutes. It feels shorter than that, which isn't a bad thing. It's just it. There's so much that it just feels like it's the locomotion to like get us onto what's going to be the second half. We've
yeah,
kind of hit that culmination of the original goal of Quiet, like getting to face with Stone, and then now it's the aftermath of that.
right. You know what? I think this being episode five, I can see people think it feeling a little overwhelming, but after this, I think everyone will be where they need to be. All the dynamics and like all that stuff is set. Now it's just a matter of leading into like episodes 9 and 10. So yeah, I kind of like this episode because yeah, I think it just has a really difficult job at really hitting these points by episode five. And so there might have been some things that needed to be cut to fit the runtime um and just yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I felt I was lacking, but no, I think it was just, yeah, really well written and edited well. I'd be curious to see if there are any deleted scenes because I think everyone gave just enough. Everybody's moments were impactful. Um, and it's yeah, definitely not an episode you can skip. I think you need to see every single episode for sure. So okay, well, that was Crossroads. The next episode we will be reviewing is Drive Through. Might be a reference to a lot of things. We'll play the name game then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yep, we're gonna try to get through these as soon as we can before season 2 drops. And until the next episode. So Shepard was a sex pervert?
Duh.